She never thought it would get this bad. At 31, Sarah sat alone, staring at the final notice from her landlord. The red letters read, "Eviction warning." Her heart pounded, but not from shock. She had seen this coming. Still, it hurt. Another notification buzzed on her phone. Overdraft alert. She checked her account, 432, 2 credit cards maxed out, student loans growing, a $12,000 medical bill she hadn't touched. Altogether, the debt loomed at $101,356. Just 5 years ago, she had dreams. A career in marketing, a little home, travel, freedom. Now, she had unopened bills and an inbox full of payment reminders. She had a job, but it wasn't enough. Rent, groceries, gas, interest, late fees, they always won. Each month she tried. Each month she failed. She smiled at work, posted happy photos online, declined dinner invites with a quick, "I'm just staying in tonight." But truthfully, she couldn't afford to split a pizza. That night, it all caught up to her. She broke down, quietly, alone. Then, through the tears, something shifted. She stood up, looked at herself in the mirror, and said, "No one's coming, just me." It wasn't a whisper. It was a promise. Sarah's mind raced as she sat at the kitchen table trying to figure out what she was going to do. The bills were piling up. Her phone was buzzing with more notifications. But instead of panicking, she took a deep breath and decided to shift her mindset. That night, she created a plan. Not a normal plan. Something different. Something aggressive. Something bold. She called it the gorilla plan. The idea came to her as she remembered watching documentaries about gorillas in the wild. They're focused. They're resourceful. They don't waste time. They know exactly what they're after, and they'll do whatever it takes to get it. No distractions, no hesitations, just strength and persistence. The first thing she did was cut out all distractions. Every subscription, every unnecessary expense, every little luxury she had been holding on to, it was gone. No more dining out, no more shopping for clothes she didn't need. She focused only on the essentials. Her focus had to be razor sharp. She also knew she needed to change her mindset completely. She couldn't afford to be passive about it anymore. She started waking up earlier, putting in more hours, and being ruthlessly efficient with her time. She had to defend every dollar, every minute. It wasn't just about making money, it was about keeping it. Next, she realized she needed to lean into her strengths. She wasn't just going to sit there and let life keep happening to her. She started side hustles, freelance writing, tutoring, selling things she didn't need. But she didn't stop there. She also reached out to others, joined online communities of people fighting similar battles, and learned from them. The guerrilla plan wasn't just about her. She understood that. It was about building a tribe, a group of people who understood the struggle and who could support each other through it. And when the going got tough, when the setbacks seemed overwhelming, she reminded herself, gorillas don't quit. They rest, but they never stop pushing forward. With her plan set in motion, Sarah knew this wasn't going to be easy. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had a real shot. The guerrilla plan wasn't just about money, it was about reclaiming her life. For the next several months, Sarah pushed herself harder than she ever thought possible. She worked late into the night, sometimes waking up early to squeeze in a few extra hours of side work before her 9-to-5 job. Every penny counted, and there was no time to waste. She wasn't just earning, she was fighting for her future. The hustle wasn't easy. In fact, there were moments when it felt like the weight of everything was going to crush her. She'd have weeks where her savings barely moved. There were setbacks, clients who didn't pay on time, side gigs that fell through, and the constant mental exhaustion that came with working 2 jobs. One night, she collapsed on the couch, staring at her phone. The bank account balance hadn't budged, and the bills kept coming. She questioned if it was even worth it. But then she remembered the guerrilla plan. She remembered the reason she started this journey in the first place. She wasn't doing this for anyone else. She was doing it for herself. She wiped her tears, stood up, and got back to work. It wasn't just about the money. It was about building the mental strength to keep going when everything seemed impossible. Sarah stopped looking for shortcuts. She knew that the only way out was through, and she was willing to put in the work, even when the results weren't immediate. She learned to find strength in the silence, in the hours spent grinding alone, without the instant gratification that most people get. The sacrifices were real. She stopped going out with friends, skipping birthday parties and happy hours. There were nights when she ate ramen noodles, even though she longed for something more. Her friends didn't always understand. They'd ask why she couldn't come to hang out, or why she was so focused. But Sarah knew that the grind wouldn't last forever. It was just a season. She was willing to give up now so that later she could have everything she wanted. Still, there were days when the stress felt unbearable. One night, she lost a major client. The financial hit felt like a punch in the gut. Her hands trembled as she stared at her phone, considering throwing in the towel. But then a message came through. It was a note from someone in the debt-free community she had joined. They reminded her of why she started and that the journey wasn't about perfection. It was about persistence. She took a deep breath, wiped her eyes, and got back to work. The guerrilla plan wasn't about having it all together. It was about fighting for what she wanted, no matter how tough the journey got. A year into her journey, Sarah started to see real progress. It wasn't much at first, small victories here and there, but they added up. The crushing weight of debt was starting to lift, bit by bit. She had paid off half of what she owed, $50,000 down, another $50,000 to go. The feeling of finally seeing the numbers move was incredible. Every time she crossed a milestone, it gave her a rush of motivation to keep going. But this wasn't just about the money anymore. Sarah had transformed into someone she didn't recognize. She was confident. She was driven. And for the first time in years, she felt like she was in control of her life. Then, the breakthrough came. One evening, as she was scrolling through her phone, Sarah saw something that caught her attention. A tweet about someone who had also paid off a significant amount of debt and was sharing their strategy. The tweet went viral. Hundreds of comments poured in, people asking for advice, asking how they did it. Sarah couldn't help herself. She joined the conversation, offering tips from her own journey. She shared how the guerrilla plan had changed her life and the steps she had taken to cut down her debt. The response was overwhelming. DMs flooded in, comments flooded in, people were inspired, and suddenly, Sarah realized that her story wasn't just her own. She had something people needed to hear. Her confidence grew with every interaction, every story shared, and every person who reached out for advice. Sarah started to teach others what she had learned. She created a small online community, offering support and tips to people who were facing the same struggles she had. She began offering personalized coaching, helping others develop their own debt-free strategies. What started as a desperate attempt to save her own life was now turning into a way to inspire and empower others. She wasn't just paying off debt, she was building a movement. Her financial freedom wasn't just about getting rid of $100,000 in debt. It was about changing the way she saw herself, changing the way she approached life, and empowering others to do the same. It was a reminder that no matter how impossible things seemed, change was possible. And Sarah had proven that with enough hustle, persistence, and a little bit of guerrilla strength, anything was achievable. After 27 months of relentless work, Sarah finally reached the day she had been dreaming of, the day she paid off the last of her debt. The moment was surreal. She'd gone from drowning in $100,000 in debt to being completely free. The final payment was scheduled, and she had been tracking every dollar that went into her savings. The day arrived, and she sat at her desk, staring at the screen. Her hand hovered over the mouse as she clicked, Submit Payment. There it was, $101,356, officially paid off. No more bills, no more stress. She had done it. For a moment, everything stood still. She looked at the balance on her screen, trying to let the reality sink in. Then, the emotions hit. The weight she had carried for so long finally lifted. She couldn't hold back the tears. It wasn't just the money, it was everything that came with it. The sleepless nights, the anxiety, the constant worry, all of it was gone. She stood up, breathing deeply, feeling the air in her lungs like never before. She didn't just feel relieved, she felt proud. Proud of herself for sticking to the plan, for pushing through the hardest moments, and for never giving up. She had done it, not alone, but with a community that supported her every step of the way. She celebrated in her own quiet way. No grand parties or big celebrations, just a simple moment of reflection. She shredded the last of her debt notices, smiling at the symbol of her victory. For Sarah, this wasn't just about financial freedom. It was a transformation. She had gone from a woman trapped by her past mistakes to someone who was in complete control of her future. Her confidence was unshakable. She had learned to trust herself again, to believe that she could achieve anything she set her mind to. The guerrilla plan had worked, and just as important, Sarah had learned that the journey wasn't about perfection. It was about persistence. Every step, no matter how small, had brought her closer to this moment. She had fought for this, and now she could finally say it. She was debt-free. Her story wasn't just one of survival. It was a testament to the power of resilience, determination, and the belief that no matter how impossible the journey may seem, with the right mindset, anything is possible. Sarah's life after paying off her debt wasn't just a return to normal. It was a whole new chapter. The relief of financial freedom was one thing, but the real change came in the way she viewed herself. She no longer saw herself as a woman weighed down by mistakes or failure. She saw a woman who had taken control, who had fought tooth and nail to change her life, and who had succeeded. But Sarah didn't stop there. With the guerrilla plan successfully behind her, she knew she had a new mission. She wasn't just content being debt-free, she wanted to help others find the same freedom. She began sharing her story on social media. What started as a few posts turned into something bigger. She started a blog, recorded videos, and even created a series of online courses. Her story resonated with so many people who were stuck in the same cycle of debt she once was. She was able to connect with them on a real level because she had been there. She had felt that weight, the fear, the hopelessness. And now, she could be the voice of hope for others. Sarah turned the guerrilla plan into a framework that others could follow. It wasn't just about paying off debt. It was about mindset, persistence, and the belief that no matter how overwhelming life gets, you have the power to change your circumstances. She wrote about how to build financial confidence, how to face setbacks, and most importantly, how to stop being afraid of your debt. Soon, people started reaching out. They thanked her for giving them the courage to take their first step. They shared their own stories of debt and freedom, showing how Sarah's journey had inspired them to take action. She wasn't just a debt-free woman anymore. She was a mentor, a leader, someone who helped people transform their financial futures. But even with all the success, Sarah stayed grounded. She never forgot where she came from. She never forgot the fear of that first eviction notice, the constant dread of checking her bank balance. She always kept that part of her alive because it reminded her why she did this in the first place. To help others, to share the tools she had learned, and to give them the chance to live a life of freedom too. The guerrilla plan had given her more than just financial stability. It had given her purpose. She wasn't just changing her own life. She was helping others change theirs. And that was the most powerful feeling of all. Sarah knew this was just the beginning. She had gone from surviving to thriving, and now she was helping others do the same. It was a cycle of empowerment that would continue, because Sarah's story was not just her own. It was a beacon for anyone willing to fight for their freedom. And that fight, it would never stop.